How do I keep from getting fired as a startup CEO? You've just closed your first round of funding. Now you're worried about meeting the expectations of your board and investors. Maybe they'll fire you when they figure out how unqualified you are for the job. That's exactly how I felt after I raised our initial $12 million in funding. It's one of the biggest fears startup CEOs have, but here's the thing. The same habits that are keeping you from being fired are the ones that make you indispensable. In today's video, I'll show you 10 ways to not just survive as CEO, but thrive as CEO. I hope you like it. Hi, I'm Brett. On my channel, I help early stage startup CEOs like you raise money and grow your startup. So if this sounds like you, then hit the subscribe button and the bell so you get notified every time I release a new video. Let's get started. Today's video is divided into 3 sections. The first section is all about execution. The second section is about how you can manage your board and investors. And the third section is about leadership. So let's start with section number 2, or section number 1, I mean, execute like a pro, which we will go to the first one on our list, execute your plan. You're a tough guy because you executed your plan. One of my investors, Raul, said to me, it was high praise from someone who didn't give praise easily. The reason this was high praise is most startups don't come close to executing their plans. Instead, they make mistakes, miss their commitments, and, worse yet, don't communicate well. That's exactly what you don't want to do. You want to be the one startup in your investor's portfolio they don't have to worry about. Step 1 in this process is all about executing your plan. You'll never be perfect because no one is perfect. And the good news is your investors don't expect perfection. However, the better you execute, the more trust is built between you and your investors. Next, let's move to number 2 on our list. Number 2, be transparent about your progress and setbacks. It's easy to be transparent when things are going well. However, the real test is when something doesn't go well. There's an old saying, good news travels fast. The flip side of this is that bad news travels slowly. You want the bad news to travel even faster than the good news. Let me give you an example. When my co-founder Ken quit, I immediately called each major investor and board member to let them know what happened and what my plan would be going forward. Startups are fragile. Things are inevitably going to go wrong. You build trust with your investors through your transparency. Next, let's move to number 3 on our list. Number 3, don't make company-killing mistakes. I know, no one wants to make a company-killing mistake. So the real trick here is what steps can you take to keep from making a company-killing mistakes? There are 3 things you can do. First, keep from putting yourself in the position where any one decision can kill the company. For example, if you bet the company on winning one major customer, say Apple, that's got the potential to kill the company if you fail. Second, fix your bad decision immediately on something that has the potential to turn into a company killer. For example, I hired Tommy as VP of Sales. A bad VP Sales has the potential to destroy a startup. I realized within 1 week of Tommy joining the company that I had made a bad decision. Instead of immediately firing him, I waited 3 months. My delay could have killed the company, but luckily it didn't. Now on to step number 4. Number 4, own every problem. One of the smartest things you can do as CEO is give your team credit for every success, and you take the blame for every failure or mistake. I've had CEOs worry that this concept will set them up to be fired. I have to explain that's the exact opposite. The reality is that as CEO, you will get credit for everything that goes well, and you'll be blamed for everything that doesn't go well. So own it. Your team will love you, and you'll build tremendous loyalty. Plus, you'll increase investor trust by owning the problems. Now, let's talk about how you keep your board's trust, not in meetings, but between them. This section is all about controlling the narrative. Section number 2, Manage the board like a system, and that moves us to step number 5 on our list. Number 5, communicate one-on-one with each major investor or board member. One of the smartest things I did was set up one-on-one meetings with each major investor and board member before every board meeting. I suggest you do the same. In these meetings, I would share major updates and accomplishments. More importantly, I would share any major problems, such as missing our numbers before the board meeting. Again, this strengthens your relationship with your investors, and it keeps your board meetings from turning into a hot mess. I'll get back to this in a bit. Next, let's move to number 6 on our list. Number 6, ask for help before it's a crisis. Yes, you are the CEO, and yes, you should try and solve your company's issues without your board's help. However, don't hesitate to ask for help when you need their help. For example, we had a major customer win with Nest. Then at the last second, Nest designed us out and went with a larger competitor. One of our board members, Cahal, knew Nest's CEO, Tony Fadell. So I asked Cahal for help. Cahal connected Tony, and we were designed back in. Next, let's move to number 7 on our list. Number 7, get ahead of the story. Let's go back to my story about Ken, our VP Sales, quitting. By communicating quickly to our investors and board members, I was in control of the story. Getting ahead of the story doesn't mean that you hide or mislead your investors. Getting ahead of the story does mean that you get the chance to frame the discussion. That's what getting ahead of the story is all about. Don't assume for a second that your investors will not find out about your bad news. For example, Ken sent an email to the board 30 minutes after he told me he quit. Because I immediately called each board member, I was in control of the narrative instead of being defensive. You'll have situations like this happen too. Key employees quitting, a major setback on your product development, and losing a key customer are just some of the bad things that can happen to you. Next, let's move to number 8 on our list. Get in, get out, and get done. So, what are your board meetings about if you tell the board everything before the meeting? That's a good question. Board meetings should be about 2 things. First, they're about reporting the key results for each area of the company, good and bad, since the last board meeting. Second, it's the time for your board to interact with your executive team. Your role is managing the meeting flow. A word of advice. You want to review and rehearse each executive's presentation before the board meeting. You'll be surprised, and not in a good way, if you don't do this. Once your investors trust your process, your next challenge is keeping your team inspired. This leads to section number 3. Section 3, lead your team. There's a lot to leadership. Let's focus on 2 key things. That leads us to number 9 on the list. Number 9, recruit and keep a great team. You can have a great vision. You can have a great plan. Try executing your plan without a great team. I guarantee you'll fail. That's why recruiting and retention are just about the most important things you'll do as CEO. You want to spend at least 50% of your time recruiting, and you want to interview and approve the hiring of at least the first 50 people you hire. Your work isn't done. You need to keep your team in place. The way you do this is through giving your great team, great teammates, and great work to do. Then you want to compensate them well through a combination of salary and stock options. Next, let's move to number 10 on our list. Number 10, keep your morale high and turnover low. A lot of what I've already spoken about today will keep morale high and turnover low. Great teams want to do meaningful work. They want to execute to the plan. They want you to be transparent, not just about what's going well, but what's not going well. You're taking the blame for everything builds loyalty because your team knows you have their back. And one thing I haven't spoken about yet is your company culture. You can only have a great culture with a great team. So make sure during the hiring process that every employee you add is going to improve your company culture. Now, if this content is resonating with you, then please hit the like button right now. One final thought. The last thing your investors want to do is fire you. One of the positive changes in investor philosophy is the last thing most investors want to do is fire you. A large part of the investors' bet is on you, the CEO. They recognize that firing the CEO more often leads to failure than success. For most investors, it's a last resort. Now, I've got two more things for you today. Are you looking for CEO advice that you can trust? That's why I started Zero to Pitch Gold. I've been a startup CEO, and I know how important it was that I had someone I could turn to that I could trust. In my daily office hours, you can bring me your pitch, your deck, and your business questions, and I will give you direct and honest feedback. Scan the QR code to join. Second, if you want help fixing your pitch, then just watch this free 20-minute training. All you need to do is click the link over my left shoulder. I'm Brett at brettjfox.com. Thanks for watching today. Take care. Bye.